communities thrive. We want to
All right, everyone. We are back again. This is Marwan Cameron. This is the Conduit. It's Thursday night. What do we do on Thursday night? We are at the Black Ring Spirits. We have the Resiliency Workshop that is hosted by the Resiliency Econosystems. And so Mark will be bringing us the next in the workshop today. I believe we're going to be getting into the 4 agreements. Is that true today?
Actually, that's 2 weeks away.
2 weeks away. All right. So 2 weeks away. I'm really excited about that.
Ishmael part 2.
Ishmael part 2. All right. So I missed part 1 last weekend, but or last Thursday, but I'm here for part 2. So I'm really excited about it. So we're going to go ahead and get into this week's workshop. Again, you can go ahead and type any questions that you may have in the chat. And understand it's never too late to join. Go ahead and contact us. Information is in the chat. All right.
Be right back, folks.
All right. So, as you can see, tonight we've got a pretty good crowd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got several people in the back. 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 people in studio with Mark, who is facilitating the workshop. So we've got a nice full class tonight. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing really good.
All right.
And I've got a question for all of our listeners that I asked on your interview with mayoral candidate Broughton, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think community resilience is?
Oh, man. I had an answer and I changed my answer. Community resilience. What do I think it is? So for me, I'm looking at it first from the resiliency, right? And as you know, I really love how you kind of flipped on the head sustainability, right? So that's really stuck in my craw now, right? Yep. So I when I hear sustainability, it just kind of makes me cringe a little bit because I do want to be resilient. I want everything that we do to have a resiliency and not a sustainability. I don't want to tread water, right? So when I think of resiliency, I think of growth. I think of progress, right? And so then if I, pull the community piece into that, then that means people progress, right? Community progress, the progress of the people. And so in order to get there, then we have to get to know each other, right? Find out what each other's knowledge, skills, and abilities are, what our interests are, and then leverage those things to fill in the gaps and build that community, however that looks, whether it's a block or a neighborhood or a church or whatever it is, right? A city, a county. So I guess that is how I would answer that. Just wanted to break it apart and then expound it back out.
Bring it together. And that's excellent. And I want the listeners to think about this. We have a mayor race coming up in Bremerton soon.
November 2nd.
And we have city council races here in Port Orchard. I think every city has something going on. So I want you to think about a couple of things that have been occurring to me as I've been listening to debates and conversations on radio and with the different candidates. And 2 things that always strike me is that they talk about community development, but they don't talk about people. And I want you to think about that a little bit when you listen to when you go to the ballot box. I'm not asking you to vote Republican, Democrat, or anything else. I want you to think about who actually recognizes you as a person. Who's going to vote to make it better for people? Who's going to work to make it better for people? Because when it comes down to it, aren't we people? Aren't we all people? So I want to share with you a skit that I'm not going to have time to put it together, but I wanted to do a skit before Halloween because it just seems an appropriate time. We are sold that we are individuals, and as individuals we are strong. And I know lots of people that collect guns and have bunkers and are storing food, and they think that they're going to stand with their family against whatever happens, whatever that might be, Cascadia Rising, the zombie apocalypse, whatever. In this case, we wanted to play with the zombie apocalypse. We wanted to have people dress up as zombies.
The most obvious thing, right?
Yeah, and it's Halloween. and have one person standing there to protect everybody and watch him get overrun and flattened, because a person alone is a person alone. And then I want to have a community that comes together and holds off the hordes because they are working together, they're connected to each other, and they care about each other. The caring about each other is a very important part of creating a power to sustain and to become resilient. So think about that a little bit. For, right on. All right. We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about systems. We've talked about government. We've talked about religion. We've talked about a lot of things that make up the culture that we talk about every week. But the most important thing about that culture is us. So I'm going to float an idea out there that I kind of touched on last week, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about. To me, the definition that I present to you for culture and society is a framework in the best possible case, kind of like capitalism in the best possible case, is everybody working together and getting a piece of the pie. But that's how it works now because it's a perverted version of what the original idea was. But in the best possible framework of culture and society, we program it to support our humanity by creating agreements on how we want to live together. Is that fair enough? Can we all agree that that is the model that we're agreeing that we're talking about? So, do you think? And I'm going to ask each of you this, and I want to ask the people that are listening out there to go ahead and comment on their thoughts about this as well, and we'll try and play those in. But do you feel that our culture that we live in right now supports our humanity? There's a laugh. So, how is it that we got from a place where culture is supposed to be about us programming to support ourselves and supporting our living together to what we have now, which is horribly unequal, horribly abusive, and horribly divisive?
Greed and power.
Okay.
Almighty dollar.
So, and to finish up last week, to tie this back into last week's a little bit, where we're talking about Ishmael. I don't know if you, Nancy, have you read Ishmael?
I read it a long time ago.
Okay,
All
so
I remember is there's a gorilla.
and Tom, are you up to speed on Ishmael? Do you remember enough of it to remember takers and leavers? Ish. Okay. So, is it possible that Daniel Quinn nailed it when he said that we started creating abundance by doing totalitarian, what he calls totalitarian agriculture, which I love that word. We locked up the food and started creating a hierarchy. And from that point, we started expanding and taking over other cultures around us and other groups around us until we are the predominant culture. That's his theory. And if you look at things clearly enough and step back a couple paces, it appears that that's what we've done. Because the people who are not part of our culture, and you can call, well, the Chinese have a different culture, the Japanese have a different culture. Do they? Take 2 steps back and see how they interact with the world. It looks just exactly like us. They have different things that they say about it, but it just looks just exactly like us. So if we can agree that step onto the path of hierarchy and locking up the food created the culture that we currently have.
When you say Japanese and Chinese and so on, are you talking about people within the United States, or are you talking about
globally?
Okay.
Globally. I actually end up talking to people around the world. And it's amazing how we see things eye to eye when we talk about human things. And we're not talking about country borders. We're not talking about geopolitics. We're talking about we're talking about geopolitics or anything like that, but we're talking about people, meeting with people. It is all identical. We all want the same things. So why is it that our culture doesn't reflect the things that we feel as human beings? And I mean, human beings everywhere. I think the only place I haven't talked to anybody is South Africa and Korea. I've talked to people in North Korea. I've talked to people in South Korea. when you get right down to it, they all care about food on the table, a shelter, and their family around them. And some form of peace. So if you step back to that part of what we're trying to teach here is that we have to engage with people. As scary as that is, as hard as it is with the 24/7 divisiveness being pounded into our heads, and my personal opinion, and I'm very carefully saying this, my personal opinion is we have to learn to stop believing that politicians are going to do it for us, even though we're taught that someone's going to save us.
A source of problem.
Yeah. Anyway, don't worry about it, Terry. We'll fill it in. All right. So that now that we've kind of come to a foundational, are we all in agreement on this? Pretty much, Cameron? Are you with us on this? You agree?
I believe I agree. I didn't hear him trying to connect Benko.
Okay. All right. Are you in agreement with where we're heading with this?
Yeah, I think the big differences, honestly, are just some vernacular. I do believe that the big difference, the differences between the culture you're talking about, and then the mix of politics and stuff. And that's the takers and the leavers. And, you can also call the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we are now. Absolutely.
Okay.
So the people in the middle, the middle class, if you will, has been slowly going away, and the haves have been getting smaller. That group's getting smaller, but they're getting more, and the have-nots is getting bigger, and they have less.
Yeah, and it's a little bit dangerous. So here's the question for everybody, and it's kind of unfair to throw this at you because you're just here for the first time. But we're coming in on halfway through the second session. Does everyone here feel that it is possible to step onto a different evolutionary path than the one we've been on? By evolution, I'm saying not the Darwinian evolution, but an intentional evolution to try and forestall our pending issues in the next 50 years.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
There's going to be a certain amount of force that has to be applied by the have-nots.
What if the have-nots just decide to go a different direction and they stop supporting the haves? Would that be an application of force?
I don't know that that's necessarily going to be successful out the gate, because the haves will react.
Well, they will react in the way they've always reacted. They will try and change the conversation and co-opt the movement. But there's also the pending piece that if you have a top-heavy system, it collapses. So the haves are taking and taking and taking when there's no more to take. I think the haves will take care of themselves.
What the haves? That's all they do is take care of themselves.
No, I mean they will take care of themselves in this equation. We don't need to worry about them because at some point they're going to collapse and they're going to wonder what the hell happened. And it has very little to do with us.
Maybe, but the haves have resources that the have-nots don't have.
But we have resources they don't.
Numbers.
We can come together. If we can come together, we can do an amazing amount of things.
Somehow.
They have money.
Yeah.
We can grow food.
Yeah.
We can learn to care for each other.
Right now, the haves have us very divided.
And that's why we're here to learn how to work together to do that. So I'm saying, so let me rephrase it a little bit. Do you think that if we can successfully, I'm going to put a caveat here, if we can successfully create trainers through this system locally, we can start creating a system where people can learn to come together?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to take, well, you and I have talked about this before, it's going to take and there's only going to be a small percentage that will participate, but that small percentage
might be enough.
Drive a larger change.
Yeah. So
do you have some sort of blueprint in mind?
We have a framework,
Okay.
and what we're teaching here is that we will be getting to the framework in the next session. These work in 4 sessions. Each session has 3 workshops. The first workshop is about perception. The second workshop, which is what we're in the middle of now, is talking about how we got here. So we all have kind of an agreement of how we got here and where we. More importantly, it's like, look at the compass. Where are we exactly? And the third workshop is how to build grassroots networks and start developing tools. That's really the framework session. The final piece of it, the 4th session, is train the trainers. Because we've come through this process, we need to talk about how to reach out to other people and how to engage them in committing to going through a process of change. And one of the things you have to understand is all it's going to take is somewhere between 15 and 20% of the people. It's not going to take 100%. We need to get 15 to 20% because the science of tipping points have said when 20% of the people all walk in the same direction, everybody else follows. Hey, what's going on? Actually, I watched Crocodile Dundee 2 the other day. And it was like a visual example of that. I know it's all scripted and everything else, but when he had to go risk, has everybody here seen Crocodile Dundee 2? Okay, so when he went to rescue his wife from the Long Island estate where the drug gangsters are, and he went and talked to a New York gang and got them to come along with him to create a distraction. And by the time they got to the estate, they had hundreds of people following them to see what the party was going to be. And people from the island in tuxedos and gowns and stuff showing up saying, hey, I'm in, what can we do? And it's like, that's what this is. I mean, you start going in one direction and people are going to go, hey, that's kind of cool. And if we start thriving together, if we start having food security, little things like food security, if we start having power security, we change the model of how we do power here. We make sure that we pay attention to our water security. We take care of the basic foundational stuff because we have the power of numbers to create those changes. Do you think people would pay attention? Oh my God, they just created 1,000 jobs there and grow food locally.
Nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd.
Yeah.
All you need is small one.
So that's the framework, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, well, when you see things taking place and happening and making progress and changing things, then it gets you excited. I mean,
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just a lot of talk and nothing happens, and we're just kind of like politics.
Yeah, and this has got to be people driven. So, and I say everybody here has heard this pretty much, but I'll say this again. It's like I'm sitting in this chair and I'm teaching the first round of workshops. I've already taught one, which kind of gave me the feeling of how we're going to do this. But it's really going to be you who drives this, not me. I can help you create the framework. I can help you learn how to do facilitation. I can even facilitate some of the stuff that's going on. But it's really the people of Kitsap County who have to own this. And so it's going to be a long, slow build. It's not going to be a sitcom answer in 30 minutes. It's going to take time. So I've got to go through my notes about this meeting. So already covered those. One of the biggest problems we have is siloing.
This wedding?
Siloing. We label everything. We create silos of information that we don't share, and it's killing us slowly. How to best to do this? Okay, so our school system pushes reading earlier and earlier in children's in the curriculum. They're now teaching children to read at 5 years old, but brain science, honest God science, says that their brain isn't developed enough to understand the wow, I'm going to have a brain fart here. Okay, it is not the they understand concrete, but they don't understand the non-concrete, the insubstantial that reading gives you. You have to transfer words into pictures to meaning, and their brain isn't developed until about 8 or 9, almost years old before you really start reading. So why is science saying one thing and why are we teaching based on something else? So science, the medical science says that children should not have vaccinations or vitamin K or any of this until they're 3 or 4 years old. So why in the hospital are they giving it to newborns without even question? I mean, in a hospital, they should understand medical science, but they're not practicing medical science. They're practicing convenience
And money.
and money. So we have these siloed things where we know this for a fact. I mean, it's pure science reviewed, it's solid science, and yet we practice something completely different. So we silo these things. We sometimes intentionally silo them, but it's also silos of belief. We believe that we're following the right path, even when all of the information over here, and climate change is a perfect example of that. We have scientists, paid scientists, that are saying it's not real. And then we have 97% of the scientists on the planet saying it is, and having solid facts about it. I started school, college, university, doing religious majors with oceanography. Weird science, weird combination, but I have a brain that goes in lots of different directions. And so when they started talking about air temperatures and debunking the air temperatures, and then Scripps Institute of Oceanography comes out with, but water temperatures are irrefutable. I understood the science behind that. Went, yeah, okay, I get it. Where temperature is changing, we can measure it in the water. It's pretty solid science. Water gets warmer, ice melts, water rises. I mean, it's a cascading effect. So we silo too much information. And we treat people as if they're not people, but cogs in a wheel. So how do we change that?
Getting them involved.
But but how do we get them involved? I mean, I would love like that.
They need the knowledge, just
I-
like everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean,
They need to think about it differently.
Yeah.
They need to ask the next question.
I think that one of the hard things is that at where we're at in time, there is so much knowledge that no one person can really dive deep into all the different places where you can go. I mean, at one point in time, that was possible. If you're an educated person, you pretty much know all there was to know in the world. And now there's so much that
It's so much available
there's
knowledge.
so much available that it's
Mind-boggling.
overwhelming, and I can't. I mean, so I sort of feel like I've been trusting people who I think are experts to give me information about things, and then it turns out that, well, I'm not getting all the information. I mean,
You're getting their opinion, not
Right.
the science behind
or
it.
that it's one piece that might have some validity, but there are other pieces that also have validity, but
And they don't fit together quite the way that they think it does.
Right.
And science is a lot that, which is why they have peer review to challenge it. I actually had one of our early board members was a biologist who did a lot of field studies and such, and she and I had arguments about biology and science, and what it came down to is that we had an agree to disagree on some things, and some things we just said, well, we have to wait and see what peer review says about it. And the peer review process is what science uses to change it from an idea to working science. So a scientist will have an idea. They will do a lot of research on it, and then they will write a paper. And that paper goes to a group of scientists who review it. And they will ask questions. They will try and duplicate the experiments and see if it works. And in the best possible world, they peer review either proves or disproves it, and they move forward. That's not what we do anymore. And that's the issue. That's not how we do things. We do things for, people believe all kinds of things, but there's a lot of information out there. If you've never read Joseph Chilton Pearce, he wrote a book called Magical Child. Actually, he's written several books, Croc in the Cosmic Age, Magical Child. And he is a generalist that looks at a lot of silos and brings information together. And what we need, I think, is people who do that, if that makes sense. So I think we're in agreement that we feel that we've gotten here by having a broken culture. Is that a fair statement, or am I being too general?
Fair.
Okay, and we're all in agreement that human beings coming together can potentially make a change and get us on a different path.
Yes.
And I think because of that, we agree that we need to be on a different path.
Sooner the
Banjo would
better.
like to chime in there.
Okay.
I'm supposed to call every time.
Yeah, that'd be great. Go ahead.
Hi,
How you doing?
You turn that-
forgive me. I'm involved in the process of technology, and I forgot the last question.
You want to restate that, Mark?
Okay, so there's actually three questions. Which one did you not get? The last one? Was it all three?
Well, there was one about how do we get people involved on an individual level.
Okay, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so where we're at now is that we have a broken culture.
Right. It's I do think it's a generalized statement, but I think it's true.
Okay, yeah, and we just went over a lot of stuff leading up to it, which is why it was more generalized at that point, because we kind of went over that. And then, are we capable of going onto a different path? And then, do we want to? I mean, do we need to go on a different path?
I'm all in.
Okay. Here we go.
You're caught up.
Hey, Banjo, if you just want to keep this line open, we can just do it this way. If that works for
Okay,
you.
I think, yeah, that'll do.
All right.
Should
Okay.
I log off of the other thing?
Sure.
And LCAT thinks we should just tear it out.
He's making a bed.
You gotta have it just so.
Yeah. All right. So we went through
There
this
we go.
last week, and so we know where we are. And I'm kind of feeling that with this group, we've actually kind of gotten to that point. So meeting people where they are is going to be the hardest lesson we learn, because we are all in different places. And I'm human. Okay. I am. I facilitated this framework. I've done a lot of work toward this, but I talk to people and look at the world, and it makes my skin crawl, and I get boiling. I watch people, cut me off on the road, and I get angry. Camo and Banjo were helping me move last weekend, and one of their friends talks a lot, and I finally just had to say, listen, I am not in my best place, and I can get really hot under the collar if we keep going down this path. Can you be a little quieter and be a little more focused? I'm human. All of these things affect me. I have dedicated a decade to doing this, and that sometimes means that I've almost come close to homelessness myself, because people don't pay you to do this. You have to just be really passionate about getting it done. And I have a 24-year-old daughter. I'm sorry, Kira. A 24-year-old daughter that may not see the end of her life or live as long as we have. And I can't abide by that. It's my responsibility to do something. And so I work on it every day. And we are all human. We all have good moments. We all have bad moments. But where we are at any given moment, and I'm going to touch on the 4 agreements right here. The 4 agreements says always do your best. So is your best the same every day?
Only if you're really good.
I haven't met anybody that good yet.
I haven't either.
No, when you're hungry, when you're tired, those things that us humans have to go through.
I will tell you, I have not been at my best for the last several days in the process of moving. So how do we deal with that? I mean, I don't know.
Go ahead, you're on there.
like Marwin said a few days ago, sometimes doing your best isn't, from day to day, your capacity changes,
Absolutely.
and so always do your best. On Tuesday may look a lot different than it does on Wednesday.
Yep. Thank you, Banjo. That was the point I was getting to. And that's the same with everybody. That's the same with every person on the planet. I will tell you, and I'm not, this is not a political statement at all, but I've talked to several people who voted for our last president. And I said, why? Can you explain it to me? Because I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to tell you you're stupid. I just want to know. I really want to know what it was that you thought you were going to get. And predominantly it was change because they didn't trust the system that we had. They wanted something different because they were not feeling cared for. Can we all relate to that? I mean, okay, whether you agree with their politics or not, can we all relate that we are not feeling cared for by the systems that are supposed to support us?
Yeah.
So what can we do about that? Can we create our own network systems within our neighborhoods? And if so, how do we get people engaged in our neighborhoods with having that conversation when they've got their own lives and they're so busy?
You could invite them over for food.
What's the oldest form of human connection? And I'm not talking about sex. Okay. Oldest form of human connection.
He points at me.
Other than that, you just happen to be there. Probably because they were all nomadic. Let's pack it up, guys. We're moving off. There's no food here.
Mm-hmm.
Food, breaking bread. In case I haven't shared this with you guys, I actually had somebody ask us if we were a religious organization. I said, why would you ask that? There's nothing. I have scrubbed clean anything that refers to religion in our stuff, and so have you, and so have the other people who put on our admin. I said, why would you think this? Is because you use the term breaking bread. And I stopped before responding to him, and I went, huh. I said, you do realize that the term breaking bread and the process of breaking bread predates all religion by rather like 2 million years.
At least.
Yeah. And they go, oh.
They thought it had something to do with communion, probably.
Yeah, But I'm thinking that the first step in getting your neighborhoods together is asking them to come together for a meal. And say, let's just sit down and get to know each other, because it's not even that you hate your neighbors or that you're afraid of your neighbors. You just flat out don't know them. Tell me if I'm wrong. We all tell stories. With the lack of data, we make up stories. If anything is a human trait, that's a human trait. Now look at how we created the gods and the nature spirits. Not that there aren't nature spirits or anything, but we created all these stories about them to explain how life is around us. We make up stories about our neighbors based on brief observations and interconnections. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're having a bad day or a good day.
The purpose of religion was just to explain the unknown.
Right.
But we're so steeped in science now that religion's just tradition.
There are several movements that are saying that religion and science will cross the boundary together at some point, and science will get to a point where and with quantum physics, the question about what's science and what's magic might become really interesting, because what we appear to think of as magic now might not be in the future. And I'm not saying that that's something I expound, but it's something that is being discussed by quantum physicists.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll necessarily cross the same lines, because at some point science is going, we'll learn more.
Mhm.
We'll learn what we don't know now. But I think that's going to take us farther from religion, not closer.
Yeah, well, okay. We're dangerously close to me going to an opinion place, and I'd rather not go. So I'm going to sidestep this
okay.
one right now. Okay. Going back to connecting with people is just you. It's up to you to be the open ones. It's up to you to reach out your hand and to learn the tools of engaging people without making them feel judged. Trust me, I have a hard time with this one. Because of the way I am, I ask the next question, and people feel judged because I'm asking a question, and I'm asking a question because I really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll keep asking questions, but they feel judged because that's what they're trained to feel when somebody's questioning them. They, instead of asking questions to find out more about them, they feel like I'm questioning them and their motives. It's a defense mechanism. And so learning how to say, no, I really want to know. I really honestly want to know. And you can ask me anything about me. I'll be happy to answer it. But learning how to engage people on that level and then talk to them about things that are important to them. And if you go back to being human is the most important thing to everybody I've ever talked to. Sorry, that's my phone. Being human is the most important to everybody. You have food on the table. So when we talk about our support systems not supporting us, I'm going to cycle back to that. Why shouldn't we sit down with our neighbors and say, so what happens if a disaster happens? And we have one right on the table that we can do. And one of the things you can do if you go to your neighbors is say, hey, would you be interested in going to see the movie Shockwave? And the movie Shockwave is a documentary done in 2009 about the Cascadia Rising event. It talks about all the science behind it.
They did a drill today, I think.
Yeah, it's a great shake. It happens in October. I actually have licensing to the movie from the producers of the film. And we are talking to Tom about actually doing a screening here.
What does that mean? You have licensing?
Means that we can show it anytime we want. We don't have to pay royalties for it. We have an unlimited license to show the movie. Yeah, Terry. Oh.
No, I'm just.
All right, so ask them if they want to break bread and see a movie, see a screening of Shockwave, and we can come show it to them and answer questions. We're talking about maybe doing it at the C Film. We did it there once before. They were kind enough to give us a room to screen the film. We had 100 people show up for it. We're hoping to do it a little bit differently this time, where we can create a discussion and get people having conversations with their neighbors. This is part of what we offer in the way of facilitating. We also have some people that we're working with that have actually gone through a mapping neighborhood program or a networking neighborhood program that can come in and work with you and your neighbors to do that. These are the things and I'm saying these to you, not pinning you guys to the chair saying you need to go do this, but these are tools that we can develop to actually have those conversations. And at this point, I'd like other people to start talking about their thoughts about this.
Well, I was going to think about why I'm late, which was our tree on our property fell onto the neighbor's fence. And they just moved in. We'd had the same neighbors for 20 plus years or whatever. They move in, they have a wild dog, they need to fence them in. So immediately I meet them, my family doesn't even meet them, the fence is up. It's been a couple of months, haven't even seen them, And then our tree falls on their fence. So, we live in an RV, so we're trying to move our RV away from the trees from falling, and we didn't have our tires on. But another way to meet people is in natural disasters. So here we are, like already facing the situation. So that's kind of what, I'm just like, oh, we're already there. We needed to talk to them beforehand. Now I'm like, well, now that the fence is open, let's talk about what you might have that they might need in the case of emergency or something like that.
Gave the banjo chainsaw.
Right. Yes. Yep. Yeah, we are going to be cutting that up for them. But the other thing that I was thinking about was how very much like I'm also a very like question oriented. I really want to know even if you don't want to talk to me anymore. I'm just like, wait, I respect that's your decision, but I'm just like really want to know why. What like
So maybe we can get together later and have a cup of coffee if you're too busy now.
Oh, yeah, the other person. I'm like, you and I, huh? Okay. Yeah, all right. What were you going to say, Banjo?
Oh, yeah.
You're on there.
So, diplomacy. I really like the idea of meeting people where they are. But at the same time, I've learned so much from conflict and resolving conflict, and being involved with, being called out on some things that, weren't necessarily ideal. In my opinion, if we could meet everybody in a place of harmony and like assured resolve, but at the same time, I feel like some of the best lessons that shape who we are come from conflict. They come from those hard lessons to hear.
When you're building community and making connections, conflict is going to arise, but you don't want to start in a place of conflict.
Right. I completely agree. I mean, if everybody had in their toolbox a way to approach something they didn't like peacefully and with resolve in mind, then that would be an absolute ideal.
And actually, that's a lot of what we're going to be talking through in the section 3.
Is the tools necessary to be able to talk about things that are uncomfortable with people? Maybe is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean that's that's a great thing to have in your toolbox. I also feel like and this might be a matter of opinion as well, but for lack of a better term, what I like to refer to it as is divine inspiration, and
I call it epiphany.
This is something that when you all of a sudden feel the urge or the the reaction to respond to something or to say something or to do something, then that's I feel kind of like that's your intuition speaking to you and saying, hey, this is your part. This is the time that you speak up. And even if people aren't ready to hear that all the time, it's kind of like in Ishmael when he sets up the he says, okay, I'm gonna give you a few terms and we're gonna dial back later on, and you're gonna understand what we're getting at with those terms. It might be your time to speak up, and it might not be their time to hear it, but later on when they hear it again, they're going to be able to go, oh yeah, that's what that person was talking about before.
So you just described branding. No, branding. The marketing term. That's why branding is so successful, is they keep putting the idea out there until you recognize it and own it.
Yeah, Banjo and I have recently had this come up a few times in different relationship dynamics, and where we might be noticing something that's like, this is gonna, I don't like this, but it goes unspoken for a long time, and then it builds up, and then it's like, all right, I actually should mention this now that I don't like that this is happening, and then it's a blow up on the other end because it wasn't communicated each time that it was brought up. Like, hey,
Bigger and bigger along the
yeah,
way.
yep.
So would you say that this is where you guys are right now because of the recent experiences?
Where we are right now?
Yep.
I mean, I'd say in a couple of different relationships, we have come to that point where like we had to, we're giving a friend a break, and there are issues that we're working through with our families and, stuff like that. So it's kind of less so now, more so like the last few weeks where it was just like it's kind of consuming,
So I'm going to use where you're heading in the example. And I mean, where you're heading, I'm talking where you and Banjo are heading. And then I'm going to kind of draw it back into what I'm trying, the point I'm trying to make here. The point of the workshops is to understand how we got here. But more importantly, the point is to develop networks to change it, to start developing networks of people to change where we're heading. And I understand it's an overwhelming concept because we're looking at the world and how everybody's all marching the same way. And you're all thinking, I'm not a superhero. I'm not, Jimmy Carter. I'm not, whoever, fill in the blank, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. How am I going to affect change? And I said, what if it's as simple as having potluck and getting to know your neighbors? But here's the tool. Here's the thing that needs to happen is, yes, you're in those situations, and yes, you get the emotional impulse or the rempaglo, the epiphany to say something, and it may go south on you. One of the things you're learning here is that sometimes, even when you have that strong impulse and something needs to be said, it's imperative on you to not say it, or to say it in such a way that it is more accepting, because our job is to bring people together and to minimize conflict, to facilitate the idea of thought of change. And that's where the first workshop series came in, about perspective. We have to change the perspective of being a person who has things to us, and in this society, a victim, to being a person who facilitates a process of change. Are we okay with that? And the reason we're doing this in this way, just a minute, Banjo.
You said
The
say it again.
Oh,
You didn't catch
God, you think I remember it? I just said it.
that.
Our job is to become facilitators of the process of change. And the reason I built the workshops the way they are, where we go through the perception part and the perspective part, to the understanding how we get here, to working through the 4 agreements and understanding how we can affect relationships by how we approach them. And again, we are not our best all the time. But if we can understand that the other people are not at their best and give them space to build a relationship with us and with each other and help facilitate those conversations, we can do a lot of really good things. And that's where we're trying to get to, is a place of recognizing and being our as human, and not always at our best, but the best not always being the same, and helping other people engage. And that's why it came back to you saying, well, how about if you can't hear what I'm saying now, and you have trouble, and I understand you're thinking about something else, like the tree in the neighbor's yard, why don't we go have a cup of coffee next week and we can talk some more?
Yeah, with the 2 different situations that are coming to mind right now, there was the friend who, in both situations, I'm very good at reading exactly what's going on and why they're feeling this way. So I'm very understanding, and, so kind of thinking about, oh, maybe this is how I should handle it. And in one case, I wrote up over the course of weeks a novel and had to rewrite it. I ended up rewriting it 4 times before I sent it. And it was a very, very heavy week for me. And I didn't even send it. I actually was just like, I actually need to go ahead and get some words off my chest now. And she's like, go ahead. I did it already. So you go ahead. And instead of writing the novel, I just kind of because she was there available to chat with me. So I'm like, okay. And so I didn't really get to give the novel that I wanted and had written up. But then she responded with exactly what I'd been telling, my husband. I'm just like, she feels this way because of this. This is what's going on. These are the past mistakes she's made. This is why she's feeling this way. It all came up now because of this and this and this. And she laid it all out exactly how I thought it, she was feeling. Mm-hmm. And, but in the other case, it was less of my control, and it was more, I knew that, this person would respond in a way because of where her head was at, and I was taken aback by how she responded so pointedly. It was very much, I keep seeing her finger pointing and all these fingers pointing back at her, because she's just like, oh, it's all you, and you did all of this. It's like, okay, whoa, all right, backing up, let's take our space. She's like, yeah, I just need some space. And I was like, she's like, can I get my pots back? I'm like, okay. Can I get my canvas back? She's like, I need time. I'm like, okay. All right. Why don't you just burn it? It's fine. So it's like two different situations, and kind of you got to think about what you're saying before you say it. And even if you spend weeks doing it, in the moment it's going to turn out differently, and it can be really hard.
So to the second one of those, again, the science of tipping points, 80% of the people are never going to get it. And I'm not telling they're dumb. They're just very indoctrinated, and they're very successful within the system that we have now. They have been very successfully educated in the system we are living in. And sometimes you just have to look at somebody and go, okay, I get it. But let's talk about this maybe and see if we can come to an agreement over here. And here's something that I learned, very hard lesson, is that sometimes you just have to listen somebody into coming to a place where they can tell you their truth, their real truth. Because I'm hearing, this is my opinion, but I'm hearing from the second example that she was looking for a way to break the relationship and had to create it, making it your fault. This is not an uncommon issue. Sometimes you can take those situations and go, okay, cool, diffuse it a little bit and say, now let's talk about it. I mean, what exactly, because I want to learn from this. What exactly did I do to create this? And I'm very, very, very sorry that this happened to you. And just ask the next question. Say, hey, can we talk a little bit about this? And I mean, and I'm not saying an example because you were in the example, and I obviously can't say that's something there, but sometimes you can get them to tell their truth. And the real tool here, the God, I hate that word because it's been so abused. It's a tool here. The real tool, or the process here, is to listen to people and to diffuse the situation and to get them to a point where they can engage in conversation. Because far too frequently people don't feel heard. And the reason they keep repeating the same thing, and even really aggressively, is they're not feeling heard. And sometimes, and this is something my ex-wife said to me a lot, you have to listen them into silence. You have to listen to them until they feel heard. And that's really bloody hard. With some people, they will never feel heard because they're to the point of so broken that they can never feel like they're heard, even if you listen to them. But with other people, you can get them to a point where you can say, now I've listened to you talk about this, and ask them a question about themselves that will get them to engage. At some point, you'll find yourself in a conversation with them, even people you didn't think you'd ever have a conversation with.
I feel like you're a lot, and what you're
Go to better service, Banjo. We can't understand you.
saying.
Go to better service. You're scratchy.
I hear we're hearing every third word.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So a lot of what you're saying really harmonizes with me. And as an ideal, I really like the idea of each of us being present enough to really take on the job of having all the tools to speak to every individual where they are in order to assist them in finding their way towards self-fulfillment and community and so on and so forth. But for me, there's a part of me that speaks up in the midst of all this, in reference to a dream I had a while ago, and where there's a bunch of people and we're all walking together, but at the end of the day, me and the lady I'm walking with and our child, we put up a velvet rope around us, and that's where we ate, and that's where we slept. And then we got up and we took down the velvet rope and we kept walking. and that dream was definitely, I felt like a lesson in saying, be conscious of who you're keeping in your velvet rope. And the other part of that comes up for me is, it's kind of like a sales tactic thing. In the Revoluias, we say that our biggest, our number one rule is all inclusivity. And the reason why is because the more accepting we are of people, the more of an outreach we have, and I feel like it goes back to that kind of like divine inspiration concept, where Mark, you're going to be able to talk to a lot of people that aren't going to be able to hear what I'm saying,
And vice versa.
What's that?
And vice versa.
Right, exactly. There's some people that are just totally put off by me because of my mannerisms, and I might, just my mere mannerisms might remind them of their uncle who did something that they didn't like, or something like that, and that's just enough for me to realize that, it doesn't matter how many questions I ask, it doesn't matter how many tools are in my toolbox to be able to communicate with this person.
So
I am not the one.
Yeah, let me tell you a story about that. And this story goes into what we're doing here. Okay. So back when I was in Silicon Valley and I was selling computer systems and network network management systems and such, I always had a couple, three people in my group that would speak differently than I do, look differently than I do, would engage differently than I do. And when I had somebody that I knew immediately there was a chemistry problem, a perception problem about me, I would call one of them in and give them the account and walk away from it. Because the important point was getting to the end. Now, let's apply that to here. So we have people going through this workshop series. We have people that will be coming out and be trainers and will have the tools to engage. But there are going to be some people that aren't going to engage with you or you or you. But you have a team of people that you're working with and have developed relationships with. And Nancy, you can say, I'm having trouble with this, but I bet he can talk to Carol. Or I bet he can talk to Camo, and they'll get Camo in. And get somebody else in to have that conversation with them to develop the relationship and get past the roadblocks. Does that make sense to you, Banjo? Yeah, so that's part of the process, is to come to the other side of it and to have a team of people that can have a conversation that you can't have with somebody, because there's always going to be that chemistry, always. And so I'm looking forward to the time I call on Tom and say, hey, Tom, I need you to talk to this person because they can't hear me, but I think they'll hear you. Because he'll bring a bottle of bourbon. What do you need to know about Tom? He's pouring a drink.
He wasn't talking.
Right.
Hey, I can kind of hear you, buddy. Okay, speak now. The speaker is right in front of me. Oh, bourbon. Yes. Okay. Yeah, got it. Social lubricant.
Now that was said. We went there. Yes, we went there. And only on the Conduit are you going to hear that.
What? I didn't do that.
Anyway, back to it. The whole point is to build tools and build relationships. And we're going to start building those relationships here. And then as we build more workshops out and we build more people in, what I'm hoping to do is, as we teach the workshops in the future, we have different people teaching different sections of the workshop that they're feeling more comfortable with. And kind of, and the whole idea is to train the trainers, and we want to work with you to kind of apprentice through the process. And so we all learn how to train. and to talk to people and to create more. But we also want to practice it. We want to go into the neighborhoods and have conversations with your people. We want to help facilitate potlucks. We want to facilitate the conversations with your neighbors to create those network neighborhoods. Now, I kind of started to go here earlier, but I'm going to go through here now. And Cameron and I just had the conversation about this. In the recent conversations I've had, again, everyone talked about community development. They were talking about the organizations, the law enforcement, the schools, and nobody talked about, and they not only did not talk about it, but they felt downright uncomfortable and avoided the situation. I said, but who's talking to people? How do we build a community without talking to people? Tony? You're awfully quiet back there, so I'm going to pin you now. How do we build community without talking to people? Because I know you do community work.
I have to wake up.
Yeah.
I have to talk to people.
No. How do you build community without talking to people?
Did you ask me how do I go from me?
No. How would you go about building community if you weren't going to talk to anybody?
That'd be very difficult.
So how would you build community?
I would have meetings, gatherings, similar to church, but it wouldn't just be church doing a religious thing.
Maybe
It'd be a
potluck?
fellowship of communication. That's an easy task at hand. We usually start with food, but it's going to be after something that's common with the people that everybody eats together. Barbecues usually work. Yeah.
Probably not sushi. At least not here.
I'm glad I said barbecue. I can't really figure out how to do that without communicating with the people. It's like humans were made to communicate.
Mhm.
We were made to fellowship with one another. There's going to have to be a constant norm that everybody agrees on. And I would meet right there at that point, and we would socialize there.
Okay. So
Um,
I'm going to turn the floor over to you guys for a few minutes. And here's the question I want you to talk about, and we'll pass the mic around. I want you guys to just come up with an idea of how to go talk to your neighbors, and in what could you come up with that is important enough to get them to come to a potluck? I mean, food is usually the good enough by itself, but what methodology, what thoughts do you have? And it could be anything at all. I mean, whiteboard the hell out of it and throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. What thoughts do you have about creating community? I'm going to start with Cameron or Marwan. Sorry, I have been moving for 3 days and my brain is really sideways at the moment. Marwan, what do you think? What's a great idea to get people to the table?
Outside of food, whew, man, Anthony stole my answer.
Anthony.
Well, so it's important to cultivate relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yesterday, that's what we did, right? We actually gathered with food and brought together staff and board members from G2 at my house to decorate the holiday tree. So my purple Christmas tree came in. It is purple, And so the suggestion was, well, is it too early to put up a Christmas tree? Instant gratification. I can't wait. And so Stephanie said, well, you know what? You could put Halloween decorations on it. And that would justify you putting it up now. So that's what we did. And so any excuse to have food and fellowship can bring opportunity for growth and conversation. And so had everyone over. Anthony was over. Sabrina was over. I had like 8 or 9 folks. A lot of delicious food. And then we actually did a podcast live, just a really impromptu thing. And I had everyone come and sit next to me, just ask a couple questions, why is G2 important to you? What do you think clients get out of it? Things of that nature, right?
Right.
And so for me, every moment can be a teachable moment, can be a learning experience. And so I learned by having a conversation with them. I hope that they learn by having a conversation with each other and having a conversation with me. It does me great good to hear them laughing and talking outside and fellowshipping, because we're always doing the work, right?
Yeah.
Tony's taking a nap because he's been driving all day long, right? And it's constant. We're 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And so there's no off button. So we can at least pause and fellowship together in that way. So in that respect, I found the excuse to decorate a holiday tree, to have food and bring everyone together. And hopefully they didn't feel like they were voluntold. They wanted to come by.
Yep.
Wow.
So are you saying that your idea was to have a hollow giving mass party?
What?
A hollow giving mass party? Put up a tree, start with Halloween decorations, go into autumn Thanksgiving decorations, and finish with Christmas?
Yep.
Hollow giving mass.
Yes. Like a turducken.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that worked out well.
Yeah. And actually it's a great season for that. So Sabrina, right?
Mhm.
Thank you. I'm literally, my brain is rattled so badly over the last 3 days that excuse me if I mess up names right now, even if I know you well.
You're our second Sabrina.
You are our second Sabrina today.
Okay, so wild idea. What do you think that you could do to bring people together to start a conversation?
Food, but other than food, maybe games. I don't know. It has to be a group that wants to change or do something. That's always a good tool, huh?
Food and booze.
Yeah.
Bourbon's a tool.
But I was just thinking games. If it's not food, I would say games or something.
Games, music.
Yeah.
So sorry, I might be stealing from somebody else's.
Beverages with water.
Yeah. So if you want to hand it off to Tom.
I'm implementing tools. I'm offering beverages to people who are thirsty.
So is that how you would bring
I
people?
can make coffee too.
Can this is how you would bring people to the table to have a conversation?
I've noticed in my experience, one half of this I have a lot of experience with bartenders. The other half I have no experience with hairdressers. Bartenders and hairdressers, man, people talk.
Mm-hmm.
You go into a bar, and I've never sat in a bar in silence. Never. And I've never seen, my wife get her hair done in silence.
Sit there for 3 hours.
Yeah. So, there are social things that bring us together and are natural conduits for communication.
So
And having a beverage is one of them. It doesn't have to be booze. It could be coffee. It could be a glass of water. It could,
so beverages.
beverages. Yeah.
I want to point out that the one thing that hairdressers and bartenders have in common, they're good listeners. All right. So Campbell, you're up.
Okay, so naturally, I might have mentioned this with everybody here, but I have an apocalyptic mindset, and I will dream about an apocalyptic setting at least once a week now. I used to say once a month, but it turns out I'm not remembering my dreams, and every morning I wake up and I'm like, yep, that again. So the first thing that came to my mind when you asked the question was obviously Cascadia. Obviously, there's a natural disaster coming our way, and it being in Southworth, we're not gonna be here. There's no way. We're a block from the ferry. So that one is the first one that I want to think of. Like, hey, if there's we got 45 minutes after we have the earthquake, so what are we gonna do as a community? We're all gonna like pile up in our cars at the same time and hit the road, or
What road?
Exactly. So I don't know. So it's not like we can really, I mean, we can all gather together to talk about our impending doom. So that's not really a really good talking point for my community necessarily, because it's literally impending doom and nobody can really do anything about it, in my opinion, that close to the water. But the next thing that comes to mind, and what Banjo will probably say, I'm sorry, I'm taking this from you, but how can I help you? I want to, I am thinking of a needs versus has list. So I've been thinking about this. We brought it up on our board meeting last week. Starting with like events where there's homeless people or whatever. And it's just like, how, go to my neighbor, and now that we have this hole in our fence, hey, what do you have that you don't need an excess? Oh, you have an excess of firewood? Woo! We need fire. We don't need it. We want it. Great. That's awesome. How can we help you? You need a chainsaw? Awesome. Let's cut this tree. So everybody has an excess of something, needs versus like that. That would kind of be something that I would bring up. Hey, mention something that we have to offer. We have a chainsaw, we're really good with mechanics. I can babysit, just kind of list the things that you already know are available in your community. So it just might intrigue them to be like, well, I've got all of this scrap metal that I don't need anymore and could really use it taken out, and so that would be, and then someone to talk to, like Tom was saying, and if you just need someone to talk to, I mean, come on over. If you don't come to the potluck, feel free to take my number and just call me, that's what I got.
Okay, and I'm going to throw one in for Banjo that you didn't mention. I was kind of surprised you didn't. You could just throw a circus.
Right. Get out of
They have a circus, so they could come and do skits and tell stories and help be the center point of a community being together.
Come be entertained.
Yep.
If everything fails here, I'm going to run away and join the circus.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, Terry.
When you guys get in your first elephant,
Next week.
I want to pet it.
I've done that. Pet an elephant. I live in a low income community, so there's a lot of people in need, I know, in this community. And Mark has suggested we should have a potluck for everybody in the community. And I'm thinking that would be an awesome idea, along with, having some stuff for the kids to play, because there's plenty of kids there. Something for the kids to do. And maybe a little bit of entertainment, music.
I know this really good banjo player.
Yay, right?
Tell him the music while he's working on that RV.
So it's a matter of getting people together and getting something that's get them to come, which means food, music, something for the kids, especially, because there's lots of kids.
There are probably a lot of. I'm going to step in for a second because it reminds me of an event that I threw many years ago when we got plastered. I used to live in Parkwood East. I don't know if you guys know where that is. It's over in East Bremerton. And we got our driveways plastered with propaganda from a white nationalist group during Black History Month. And we put together a hate-free festival in the Greenbelt there. And I actually got a local band to come play for free. And we did a barbecue. We worked with the Human Rights Council and several other groups to put together an event. We got 400 people to. And it only put together a week. We would have had more, except it was the same weekend as Viking Days and Whaling Days. But we got music from a local group to come and perform and we cooked hot dogs and hamburgers, and a whole bunch of people showed up. So still have the clipping somewhere. So Nancy?
Well, I actually thought about getting my little dead end street, people that live on that together, but then life happened and it didn't happen. But my my thought of was having a potluck, but also the reason for getting together was to get to know each other a little better, and to share information as far as, you know, what our names are, which house we live in, our address, our phone number, our email,
Mhm.
if you know, whatever anybody feels comfortable giving, so that we all have that information. Because and that because I think you have to have a really neutral topic initially. I
Mhm.
mean, like when you're building trust, you don't want anything where you're going to have these, you know, more difficult conversations, so to speak. So I thought it would just be that, you know, in Olala where I live, we lose power frequently, and it comes back last on the last on the list. And so sometimes that can be, you know, cause some challenges. Weather, other kinds of weather can, and just to talk about how, you know, like in my life, the people that I kind of rely on are mostly my relatives are all in Seattle, and then I have friends that are here, but you know, they're not like real close to me. And so really, the people that are on this little dead end street that I'm on, those are the people that I have most immediate access to, and they have most immediate access to me. And so what, you know, how can we help each other in the event that there are, you know, just
It
the
sounds like
kinds
you're
of
already ready to start the conversation.
simple things.
Yep.
I wouldn't go to, you know, the apocalypse yet.
No, but mapping your neighborhood doesn't have to go to that. And let me just say this now: being resilient is being as resilient and be able to recover from anything that is not truly apocalyptic. I mean, resilience isn't going to help you if a nuclear bomb drops in your lap. I mean, if we get to that point, we're done. But from anything else, being together and having each other's backs will help you recover from any downturn. So let me ask this: do you know if there's any RNs or nurses or
Yeah,
emergency
there
room
is.
people on?
And there's a doctor and there's a nurse.
So
And the doctor's retired, so he's around, you know,
So
most of the time. The nurse
if
is still
Cascadia
working.
happens and you can't get anywhere and they can't get to the hospital, what if somebody knew that the doctor was there in the neighborhood? Now, this is the bigger picture, and was able to get medical supplies to you guys so he can take care of people in the neighborhood.
I don't know what.
That's part of what we've been working on, is that to set up a way to deliver supplies to people in neighborhoods. If we know that there's medical professionals there,
Mhm.
we can get them appropriate medical supplies to help take care of the
For
people in the
emergency
area,
situations.
because they're not going to be able to get anywhere
Right.
else.
Okay, and I'm out of the loop here because I don't know what's Cascadia happening. What does that mean?
Okay. The movie Shockwave actually goes into this, but they were able to map 10,000 years of magnitude 9 earthquakes,
Yeah.
followed by tsunamis that happen off the shore when the two plates release.
Uh-huh.
The last one happened on January 26, 1700 at 9 p.m. And they happen every 250 to 450 years. We're at 321. So it's could happen any moment. And when it does, Kitsap County is going to become isolation. It's going to be its own island, and no one's going to pay any attention to us for several months because they're going to be focused on the west side or the east side of the sound. We have three.
Did that all get absorbed? Did you hear all that? You talked pretty fast, so I'm just making sure you got all the facts.
Yeah, 3 days worth of food and no power for up to a year, according to FEMA. So we could do things differently, but it would require us coming together to do it.
And then my other thing that I guess, I mean, this is my personal thing that I really feel as though we have a crappy food supply in our country, and I think that's the reason so many people died of COVID, because we have so many unhealthy people. And part of that's a personal choice and the things you choose to eat. But even if you want to choose healthy things to eat,
It's hard to find
it's
them.
not easy because we don't farm in a way that gives us nutritious, healthy food anymore.
Wait until you learn about the Food for All project.
So, well, I want to hear about that. But anyway, so I'm really interested in honing my own gardening skills and
Oh, you should chat with Heather.
and linking up with other people, and like share ideas. What have I learned that's effective, and what do you know? And how can we help each other out? Because I know, like, most of the people that are on my little road have some sort of a garden, but we could probably all do better. And
you could all help each other.
I mean, I certainly can't live off of my garden.
I have an article to send you
Okay.
with regard to the farming thing. It's an Italian architect who put together a 52-story high-rise building built it in China.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that.
Because
It's growing all this
codes
food
and all
on
that
it.
non-horse crap are much
And,
less obstructive. But 52 stories high, and I don't remember, I want to say it was something like 500,000 square feet of hydroponic growing space on the outskirts of the building.
Yep.
And then there's restaurants and office spaces and all that on the inside. Really interesting article.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the conversations I've had recently are about how we can change our growing space. I think we had that conversation the other night when you were interviewing
This
the
one just
mayoral
seemed
candidate.
brilliant because it was all based on hydroponics. So
Yeah.
you don't need good soil. You just nutrients and water.
Well, aquaponics too.
Yeah.
Any one of those will do.
Well, you can make good soil. Even
So-
if you start off with crappy soil.
Let's finish up, Carol. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm kind of feeling like there's two stratas that we're talking about here. Like one is our neighbors, and if something happened to us, what would we do in terms of coalescing and surviving with our neighbors?
Mhm.
And then the other strata that I think I'm here for more is that we have a timeline in terms of climate crisis that we have to get our planet and our way of being and our way of thinking adjusted. And even though that's still in a potluck realm,
Mhm.
I'm just not feeling really charitable for some reason. Well, for a lot of reasons, to people out there to do that second strata with. Like, if it only takes 20% of us to turn around things, I'm going to get my 20% of people, because I don't have time to change people's minds, especially people who hurt people that I love. I just want to get on with it. And I know there's people out there that, that will work towards what I'm trying to go to. And I want to be with them
Well,
and
what if
get
finding,
going. I want to get going.
Yeah.
And
and what if you find some of the people that are you part of your 20% when you have those conversations?
that I have hard conversations with.
No, when you have a potluck with people that may or may not be on your wavelength,
Yeah.
but you find 2 out of 10 people that are, and then you've got 2 more people.
Oh, sure. But that'll come organically.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I don't have to work for that. I've already got those 20% in my culture, in my people. And if organically, people come along, that's great. But it just seems like we don't have time to kind of.
which is exactly the point. We don't have time.
Right.
We have to accelerate the process by reaching
Yes.
out to more. And that's why we're saying we want to do it this way, because we don't have time to have it all be organic, because you'll miss key 20%ers if you don't reach out and start bringing them in.
Okay, but if we have 20%, why isn't that working?
We don't have 20% yet
Yeah,
because
we do.
We don't even have 1%.
We have 20%.
Particular organization, no, we don't.
Oh, you mean in Kitsap Resiliency?
or
Oh, I'm
kids that
sorry.
can't-
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Just directly? Oh, I thought we were talking about
Well-
the world.
Even with climate change, politics, let's throw that ugly word out there. We don't have 20% of the people on board. You have a lot of people that give it lip service, but they don't practice what they're flapping about.
Let's go back to what we
Right.
talked about
I
earlier.
agree.
We are taught from birth almost to look for somebody else to be our champion. So we have 20% of the people who agree that something has to be done with it. We have 50% of the people that agree something has to be done with it, but they're looking to the champions to do this for them, and they're not getting together to push those champions to do that for them. That whole coming together and pushing is the piece that's missing. And I think Franklin Roosevelt said it, make me do it. You want this done? Come together and tell me I need to do it, and then I will.
We're all too busy as a population fighting with each other because because our leadership is fighting amongst itself.
And doesn't that work well for us?
Oh yeah, it's been great. Yeah, because I mean, all we do is follow by example. So our leadership fights with each other. The left fights with the right, and then everyone who is aligned with, well, I vote left, or I vote right, and so because you didn't vote the way I voted, you're the enemy. So all we are is divided. Where
So-
there is, you know, and if we don't drop all that nonsense and start to communicate with everyone as a person, not as a left or as a right or red or blue or whatever you want to describe it as. If we don't
Fill in the
drop all
blank.
that nonsense, we're never going to come together.
And we're not only divided left and right, we're divided because we're fighting to survive.
Yeah, then I mean, you know, so we have left and right, and then we have the have and the have not, and it just gets uglier and uglier and uglier.
Were you gonna say something more?
No, just I guess, I'm kind of like living in a different culture already. So,
We all
So we need to
Yeah.
get other people to catch up with you.
well,
You have to
no,
meet them
but
where they are to get them to follow the same path.
So if you want to be successful at this, you have to go where you are least comfortable.
oh, no.
You do. You have to seek out discomfort. If you don't go seek discomfort and you're just standing in an echo chamber, what's the point of talking?
Why can't you be busy doing it? Why do you have to be in an echo chamber?
Because you need other people to
Because
join
you
Well,
you
I
and do
know,
it.
but don't we all know a lot of people that were doing
Right, but
this?
That's the echo chamber. Because
No.
We all go to people we're comfortable being around. But
I
if
see
we
your
really
point.
want to make a change, you need to go talk to someone you're not comfortable
Because
being
the people,
around.
I
because the
see your
people that we're
point.
doing that with already aren't enough to make the change in the degrees that's, in the ozone and all of that. What we're already doing, the people that we're already communicating with, unfortunately, your 20%, though probably bigger than mine, is not changing the world.
Yeah, no, you
They're
have
surviving.
to seek discomfort. That's the only way things are going to change.
You
You
can
have to go
introduce
talk
me
to
to your
someone who
friends.
you just don't agree with. Someone whose politics, whose way of life, whose habits, who everything about them you may not agree with. But if we really want to make changes, you got to go be friendly with them.
Or you can send Tom in to talk to them.
Mhm.
How about that?
Sure.
Yep.
He's like, don't send anybody to me.
I think Tony had something to finish up with.
I was being comical. I was figuring I'd just get my favorite celebrity to save me, that did the best show. I couldn't wait on this,
Who?
I'd fabricate somebody that I thought I liked out of a movie. I'd be lying to myself, but that's just hypothetically speaking.
Arnold is going
sometimes
to
you
help
just
you
can't-
out.
Yeah, what I realize is that I've seen a few things where it's like where the elements of the earth, they're going to make us unite. And hopefully we have some tools to fellowship with one another. And that's what I see here is we have to develop those tools, the ones we have and the ones we don't have. And like you said, we have to get out of our comfort zone. And you will find some people that will have the same vibe as you, that you can fellowship with and have an understanding that would be there for you in a time of need, because it'll be a moment of crisis. It ain't like you're going to have a choice, or me, and I hope I can communicate with the right person that would help me and we could help each other and get out of this. Because how many days did you say it would be that we would be downtime before help would seek us?
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
Long time to be on your own.
You go on a deployment, you're going to be uncomfortable the first 3 days. So that first week's going to be a beast. And you got 400 soldiers, and we have to learn how to just move together.
Mhm.
And we know we're all uncomfortable. We know we have a mission at hand. So can you imagine,
Yeah, I just want to do it without the boot camp.
I'm just thinking if a crisis as such happens and we get stuck in it, those first 3 days are going to be, immense, and it's going to take time and
Yep.
they're going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to have to sit in composure. And then after it lays over and they realize it's not going to change, we're going to deal with what we got.
I like how that relates to who said you need to come, someone needs to tell me I need to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
So, let me bring one more piece to the puzzle. The people you're not feeling gracious with, and God knows, I feel the
It's
same
not that
way.
I'm not feeling gracious. I just want to move on,
Right.
you know?
But some of the people out there that you don't know are going to bring pieces of the puzzle that'll blow your mind.
Oh, sure. And that happens, and that is happening.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, yeah, I'm here, right?
Right.
I'm here meeting people and, whatnot.
Yep.
I try to expand myself community wise. I mean, I think Nancy can attest to that. Personal wise.
So and part of it, I would argue, is that we are doing it right here, right now.
Yeah.
We got a room full of people that are committing to changing the world, one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have a bigger than the power's out for a few days emergency,
Right.
I mean, I'm just thinking that was the lowest level of common, issue that would be kind of without any real feedback.
Yeah.
Because I feel that you want to start off successfully, and then
Oh,
when you
if
have built some rapport, then you can kind of bring
So,
up the bigger
if the power
issues.
outage is a thing with all of you, and
Well, when you all live on the same
I lived
road,
out on
it is.
I lived out on Sedgwick, and we were out for like 3 days during the snowstorm, and that means that the water pump is out, which means no water's coming from the well, which we all had bottled water, but 5 horses didn't. So that becomes a whole nother level of issue. So if that's an issue out there, say, so what happens if a disaster happens and we're without power for a month, 2 months?
But I wouldn't know either, and I don't know if they would. I mean, like, I think I would need some more I would need some more information myself.
Right, and that's what we're doing. But I'm not saying to go do this right now.
No,
we're just throwing out ideas,
I know.
and we're kind of penciling right here to get ourselves thinking about it. This is a process. I call this a journey, and we're all on this journey together right now. We're walking down the road and we're thinking about where we're going to take the next turn, what we're going to do, and we're bringing pieces of the puzzle together so that we can be more successful in engaging more people. Yeah.
Sandra wants to jump in there. Sandra?
Jump in the line.
You're good. Go ahead.
Nancy.
Who's talking before Nancy?
Carol.
Carol.
I can't hear you.
I hear where everybody's coming from. In the idea of everyone coming with their own piece of the puzzle.
Carol, what she's expressing is a piece of the puzzle.
What Carol is expressing.
Just move on is almost leading by example. And what I see from Carol is that she's not closed off from people.
You're not closed off from people.
But she's also, she knows where she wants to go.
You know where.
And she's building that actively, which is in the design of one person at a time, changing the world, making an impact, applying our skills to communicate with everybody on the same level, but get them on the same ground. Part of that is then going to be like, well, where do we go from here?
Sabrina, you have no sound on
is a ground level
for him.
where everybody can feel like they can equally be expressed. And some people are going to feel where Carol is building what she wants to build, that's where they can be expressed.
That's where what?
Just by her leading by
Oh.
example, and it's not through her selling an idea person to person.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you, Banjo.
is that coming through all right?
Yeah, she says thank you.
Yeah, and equally, Tom's initiative to put yourself in discomfort and address as many people as possible, and make it to where you're present and available, much like Mark's initiative, present and available to talk to everybody where they are, and address growth, and in more of a seeking it out manner. That's another piece of the puzzle. And when people are looking for where they can be expressed, they're going to look at Tom and say, that's somewhere I can be expressed. And it's almost like a Venn diagram, where some of the people that are finding perfect expression over in Carol's circle are also finding perfect expression over in Tom's circle. And this is the puzzle that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep, everybody brings their own piece.
Everybody's bringing their own piece, and I like when I'm talking about the hanging up your velvet rope at the end of the night so you can do your thing. That's what Carol's up to. Yeah. And I personally, y'all know what I'm doing. I'm like, I am putting myself in places where I'm gonna meet discomfort, and I'm doing it for the ideal of seeking out change and being able to positively impact people's lives. But at the same time, I feel very much in harmony with the way I'm doing it. It is moving on.
So I have a challenge for everybody for tonight. On Saturday, on the 23rd, Tom and I and several other people are doing a dessert cook-off here between 2 and 5. And so we're going to be using Tom's beverages to make different desserts. I'd like people to bring one other person to that event just to come and enjoy it. There's not going to be any costs or anything. We're going to be cooking and they get to try what we're doing. If they have alcohol sensitivity, then that probably should not a good person to come. But,
I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah.
It should be a booze-friendly crowd.
Because we're all basically going to be making Christmas type of desserts. I'm making a gluten-free, corn-free bourbon pecan pie.
I'm going to make a tiramisu and an urban silk pineapple upside down cake.
Are you baking it here?
Well, we're going to make them and bring it here. Actually, I will be bringing a butane burner to make the bananas Foster, because you don't really want to have those sitting around. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his bananas Foster is bananas. I've had it, and when I got to it, it was late. It was after it had been cooked, and it was still bloody amazing. So I'm really looking forward to trying it fresh.
Yeah. So I'm going to be making I'm going to be using his candy apple red, which is apple based.
The best way to describe it would be an apple-based rum.
Yeah, it's an apple-based rum to make bananas Foster. So think of it as being a very fruity kind of a dessert. It's going to have apples and bananas and brown sugar and cinnamon.
What did you say, Banjo?
I said I'm going to be bringing a bourbon-soaked banjo.
Bourbon-soaked banjo.
So I'm challenging everybody to bring a person and come to the event. To bring an extra person to come to the event and just to come to enjoy and community, break food together, have food together.
That's the 23rd.
23rd, yep.
Yeah,
what time?
around the corner.
Yeah, this Saturday. It's between 2 and 5. And we are, and actually, there was a great article in the Daily Kitsap or whatever, Kitsap Daily Report or whatever it is, about the mall, an interview with the people in the mall, what the plans are.
From what I've heard, you know how well I get on
Yeah.
social media these days. From what I've heard, they released a picture of what
The concept
design
is, yeah.
supposed to look like, all the concept drawings, architectural stuff.
Yep.
So this place is going to get a facelift.
Yeah. So the feedback I got is that it still only has goodwill and stuff. There's no reason to come here. I said, well, what about Black Ring Distillery and and an awesome bakery and a pretty good Mexican restaurant? And they said, I had several of my friends come back and say, oh, I'm heading over there. I didn't even know about that. So, and two of them are going to come on Saturday. So,
Have any of you been to that new
I tell people
Mexican restaurant there?
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
So right now they're having some issues. They haven't been open for a while. I don't know how much longer they're going to be here. Because they're having staffing issues, labor shortages. They can't get a damn cook to stay.
Yeah.
So they haven't been open in well over a month.
Oh, that's too bad.
So yeah, it's really too bad.
Great food too.
The
Great
food
staff.
is- Yeah. food's-
They're awesome there.
yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Cooks. It's hard to keep a cook. It's hard to.
The one time I ate there, the food was fabulous, and I've heard nothing but great things about the baker down here, Christy.
In here?
Yeah, it's right down the way on this side.
Her cinnamon rolls are to die for. I'll bare knuckle fist fight someone for her cinnamon rolls. They're so good. Oh, they're so good.
So just, I'm challenging everybody to bring here. Marwan can come in and take pictures of the desserts.
Yeah, we'll be here.
I mean, yeah, because I can't imagine it's not going to be Carter's after all, but I'm pretty sure that we could do some pretty good stuff. Sabrina, you going to be here?
I think I have my son's football games to be. Sounds like a good time though.
It should be.
My friend's mom just passed away, so he's actually doing a thing at 2. So we might come here
Afterwards.
2 to 3.
Yeah.
And then you go to there, or what would you suggest? Before,
Whichever way,
before?
yeah, whichever way works. And also I'll throw out that I'm planning to do a bread pudding.
Yeah,
So-
I'm only going to fit in 2.
Yeah. Well, the bread pudding, I can cook the bread pudding. I've got, fair warning, the pecan pie is going to be a complete experiment. Because I'm going to, I am allergic to wheat and I'm allergic to corn. So this is not gluten. This is flat out allergies. It puts me down for like weeks. So I'm going to try and make a almond flour based pie crust. And I'm going to be using molasses and agave syrup and golden syrup for the pie.
Sounds good. So,
Thanks for the warning.
did you need some raw molasses?
Yeah, I do, and I need some bourbon.
Yeah, bourbon's no problem. I've
Okay.
got raw molasses back in the distillery.
Yeah, so I can get a little thing of it.
I've got 30 gallons or something.
I won't need that much. I need a cup, maybe 2.
You sure you want a gallon or so?
All right, so we've gone off topic. The other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and I want you guys to brainstorm. I've started to float this around with some of the community development groups. I haven't gotten any bites yet, but we're kind of visioning on our board of directors that we want to do a community fest around March 21st of next year.
Fest or fast?
Festival.
Community, we all gather together and don't eat.
Yeah.
That's how we bring the people together.
So
This is what it's like when we run out of food.
So the concept is to, in the best of all possible worlds, we would like to get the Kitsap Pavilion at the fairgrounds and bring in people who develop community. And we would like to have a town hall in the middle and have an actual discussion of what government might look like without a political element to it. What would it like? What would it like? Huh?
You realize that's going to break a whole bunch of brains.
Well, that's the point.
Because people politicize everything.
I know. And I'm actually planning to ask Emily Randall to facilitate it. Senator Emily Randall from the state.
Oh, okay.
But to talk about a government by the people for the people.
It doesn't even exist anymore.
But wouldn't it be nice if it did?
You're gonna have to rewind everyone 100 years.
Or moving forward 50.
I think moving forward 50 on the course we're on right now, we're all dead.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? To change it. Anyway, the idea is to have a community fest to bring people together to show them what community could look like. To do that, is that something you guys might want to help us with?
That's like a next summer thing. Or
Spring.
spring. No, you guys all sound like you're already doing like social networking, facilitating stuff already, and so I feel kind of like I'm not up on that. I'm not up on your.
It's okay. It just means you have to run a little harder.
What's your question?
I just said.
No, Mark. Sorry, what he's asking for us. My friend.
Oh, community fest at the fairgrounds next
Yeah.
spring.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, we talked about this at the board meeting.
Yeah. Sorry, I was distracted. My friend is out of gas and is helping for asking for help, so I got distracted while you asked the question.
And so am I.
You need help with gas?
I need help with doing the community fest. I want people to throw out ideas. Right now we're at the brainstorming phase. I want to know who you think should be there that develops community.
Companies, individuals, businesses, that kind of thing.
Like the farmers markets. I think that's a big community.
Okay.
That's a healthy
Things.
Yeah.
The other thing is youth athletics. You meet, if you've got small people in your life and they play t-ball, soccer, whatever, you meet more people that way. Sitting on the sideline going, "Run, Junior, run," and then talking to mom or dad next to you.
Yeah.
That's a huge community builder. And then bars and hairdressers.
I just imagine not having a kid being like, okay, I'll go find a kid.
We'll find a ball game that way.
Well, actually, Terry, you can start maybe doing some feelers out with that because of your community with the umpires.
She's working that whole time.
More of the players than the umpires.
Yeah.
Well, there was one in here tonight that recognized.
Yep. Oh, you're an umpire.
That lady's an umpire. Yeah.
All right. So we're after 8, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we should probably be winding down anyhow. Any questions or anything? The next week, next week's going to be, I'm going to actually start moving the schedule up because I think we've gotten pretty much where we need to be. We all agree where we're at is a bad place, that we need to get out of it. We kind of understand how we got here. We sort of agree on how we got here. So next week, we're going to start moving into, let's figure out how to grassroots out of it. Let's figure out how to change things. Which means I'm going to have to go on afterburners trying to figure out my shit. I mean, I'm going to have to accelerate the class scheduling. So, no.
Go ahead.
Everyone but Banjo, I get it. So, in regards to Nancy, Nancy, earlier you were talking about figuring out ways to make your services a little more feasible on how to get them out there and share them with people and this, that, and the other. And what Camo and I work on in the circus that we're building is encouraging people to write mission statements. And I feel like that's a really good way to supersede like social awkwardness and everything and just be straight up about, this is who I am, this is what I have to give, and this is what I need.
I mean, so that if I'm going to facilitate. If I'm going to facilitate a group, I would have a mission statement that I would share with them so they'd have some idea where I'm coming from. Is that what you mean?
Because the first thing people ask is, what's this all about?
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily when you facilitate a group, just like, just in general, day to day, my mission statement is to put on a damn good show and get my family safely across the country in pursuit of their missions, and to help with my skilled laborers by donation within reason to anybody that needs it.
Sounds like a good idea.
Right. And that goes with like, welding and mechanics and I have a chainsaw. It's like, so if anybody here winds up needing those services, you know who to talk to.
Yep. So, Aesop, this quote has been attributed to Aesop. Everybody know who Aesop is? Aesop's Fables, Aesop the philosopher from Greek times. We either stand together or we don't, or we die together. United we stand, divided we fall. What lesson can we learn from that in today's culture?
We need to unite.
That we're falling.
So I don't know if we're capable of learning it, to be honest.
Well,
Maybe the storm cloud.
Say that again.
We didn't learn it the first time from ancient Greece or our founding fathers or whatever. We didn't learn it the first time.
because while it's being said here, we're being taught this here.
Right. Yeah, and I don't mean to be the dark storm cloud, but
Yeah, it's cyclical.
So far we haven't proven that we've learned anything.
And there's always there's an agenda for all you peons, and then there's an agenda for us people that are.
I call it a playbook. It's not really a conspiracy because they're not bright enough to actually be a conspiracy, but it is a playbook that's very successful that started back in the time 15,000 years ago when we locked up the food. And it's only gotten better. Our education system supports it. Churches support it. Our culture in every aspect supports it. The only way it's going to change is if we start reprogramming it. And that requires us to consciously make a choice. And part of that choice is to come together. Because right now we're fallen. And we don't have, I'm not a scientist, but I read a lot of science. And it sounds like somewhere between the next 50 and 100 years, we may not be here anymore. Problem solved. Because the bees aren't going to care 100 years from now if the humans disappear. Here's a piece of science for you. If human beings disappeared tomorrow, in 100 years, the world would thrive. If bees disappeared tomorrow, everything on the planet would die. How important are we?
I know, and it really feels different to think of. It's like one thing to contemplate your own death, but it's another thing to think that there would be no humans on this planet at all. That is a way scarier death scenario than just that I'm going to die in within the next 20, 30 years.
Right.
That all of us are going to die out within the next 100 years. That's way
there's pretty much a consensus. If we do not do something about this now, that is the consensus. We have 50 to 100 years left on this planet. We won't have food in 60 years. We have destroyed arable soil because of our industrial agriculture until we'll not be able to grow anything but small gardens locally. And we can fix it today. We actually have the technology and the ability to fix it today, but we have to do it, and there's no will. Where does will come from? No jokes.
Money.
Actually, from the people.
Yeah, but what drives people? Money.
Only because
Will at this moment, yes. But what if the financial world collapsed?
Well, then it's too late. So how do we make the idea
Oh, well, it happened once before and we came through it.
because the government collapsed doesn't mean we're going to
We still got, we don't need no money.
If the government collapses, I mean, shit.
We would be a bit indigenous. Is that the word?
Do you think everyone's gonna come together?
No.
No, but if we start a process now,
Has a better chance.
Oh, yeah.
If we
start
don't have
the
money.
process now, better. But if the government collapses tomorrow, we're not coming together. We're all going to shoot each other.
yeah, that's my actually. To be honest, okay, this is my less this yeah, this is my less charitable thing. This is my less charitable view of the world. I always, back when I was in my 20s and people would go, anarchy. I said, anarchy only works until the guy with the bigger club comes along, and then there's no more anarchy. So, if you're going to say something like anarchy, understand what it really means.
not
You know?
anarchy, that's humanity.
That's survival. That's
It
survival.
is. We won't be cooperative.
Yeah, it's
If
not
what we have today is gone tomorrow, we will not be cooperative.
Okay, so I'm going to cycle back. I'm going to cycle back to end this on a positive note.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to cycle this back.
Sorry.
If we don't learn to cooperate with each other and build community and resilience to be human, what is there to live for?
Not a damn thing.
So,
We should sort it out now.
and so that's what we're here for. Let's sort out our humanity,
Okay,
Okay, we can all be on that.
we can do that.
because that's really at the bottom line what this is all about, is being human before it's too late. I'm sorry, I had to go there.
No, it's okay. It's accurate. It's true.
Hey, can I bring that big bell there?
All right, and that will be the closing of tonight's workshop.
But if you're
with
gonna
the
ring it,
bell.
you gotta ring it like you mean it.
I will.
All right.
I just pulled toward me.
Yeah. That was okay.
I didn't let it, somehow I didn't let it fry. I didn't bounce back.
Look at that bell in there.
What a good tub. There you go.
Awesome.
I was wanting to do that.
One of the most awesome ones I ever heard, a sensei that I worked with a long time ago, took a aqua
All
from
right,
a
so that
diving
was
bell
workshop
or
number
a
6
diving tank and cut it in half.
for the
Oh my
Resiliency
goodness, the thing
Econo
rang.
Systems
Yeah, those things
Kitsap
rang
Resiliency
for bloody
Project.
ever.
Tune in next week, next Thursday, for the next
It's
show
just
at
like-
6:30 p.m. As you can see, great discussion. Feel like we're definitely making some progress and giving folks some tools that they can take back to their communities and start to build community and relationship. So, again, I am Marwan
And
Cameron.
Thank you,
This is
Marwan.
the
for being
Conduit.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow. As you know, we've got another show. We will be down at the YWCA at 5 p.m. So join us there. I will send out a reminder tomorrow. And then tomorrow night at 9 p.m., we have the, we don't even have a name of the show, but Marwan and Sabrina will be back for another interesting evening, to say the least, for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right now. All right. For Sabrina, I'm Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. We will see you tomorrow.